Oh, hey everyone. Well, it's I, the multi-voice reviewer. I have many voices, but one opinion. And welcome back for the second parter of Goosebumps Attack of the Mutant. Now, one thing I have to add. Now, here's some I had to mention because of time, because I didn't have time to talk about it. Believe it or not, Attack of the Mutant inspired me to start collecting comic books and such, and also it got me into the X-Men. Since the whole comic book genre is all evolved mutants, and there's only one group of mutants who are superheroes, and it's none other than the X-Men. This here was my first X-Men comic book, even though it's an adaptation to the cartoon. The cartoon that came out. Now, I'll tell you the truth, the first time the X-Men came out on Fox Kids, I didn't get into it because I just don't get prejudice, how people are being prejudiced towards mutants. But now I start to realize why, because it's about, being bullied and such. People who are different gets bullied by those who don't like people who are different. And I got so into the X-Men. This here is my first graphic novel of the X-Men classics, before they had Wolverine in it. And this one was pretty good. But my number one treasure of all time that I still have even today is this. My X-Men Ultimate Encyclopedia. Now, this one is an old edition. Somebody's been making newer editions every time they make a new X-Men movie. But check this out. This here is actually an encyclopedia of all the X-Men characters. I mean, I've been looking through this book constantly, and I also got my sister and my cousin into the whole X-Men stuff. Some of them became a phase, while others, they were pretty loyal. Heck, I even talk about my favorite X-Men member, Professor X, the one I can relate to. And it was before I found the Marvel Encyclopedia, where it told me all about the Marvel heroes, besides the X-Men. But this here was my first superhero encyclopedia I keep collecting back then. But after I gone through my X-Men craze, I always kept wondering, are there other stories involving comic books? Any other stories? And one thing I had to say, somebody should do a horror movie evolving in this premise. I mean, you can imagine you being an average Joe, and one supervillain mistaked you as a superhero and would stop at nothing to kill you. I mean, since monsters are now becoming pretty scary. I mean, back then monsters used to be scary, but now in the comic book world, some of the villains are becoming more monstrous. I mean, imagine if you bump into the Joker. The Joker will wave his knife at you or shoot his Joker venom saying, "Let's put a smile on the face." Or, "Let's put a smile on the face." Or even have, if you show up in Dr. Doom's place, he says, "How dare you enter my throne room?" Or if you show up in Lex Luthor's lab, he's going like, "You want to know what happens if you try to take down Lex Luthor? The same thing it will happen to Superman!" Or if you're in Magneto's lair, he'll be like, "How dare you enter my throne room, pathetic human?" I mean, it is really scary if you think about it. It is really scary. I mean, somebody should do a horror movie evolves to that. But, despite my theories about the horror stuff, I want to talk about the other stuff. R.L. Stine, he had done this book. Now, this one is Give Yourself Goosebumps stories. It's not exactly a straight-up story like the other Goosebumps. This one, it has different endings and different pages. In this book, this one is called the Little Comic Book Shop of Horrors. In this comic book, you play... It's a role-playing story. You play a character, you go to this comic book shop, and in this book, it's up to you if you want to go to the horror comic book section, where you go into a world of Tales from the Crypt world, or you go to a superhero section, and your life is going to be a superhero. And one thing that's kind of shocked me about this book is that it's up to you how you're going to choose, and some of the endings are pretty sad. Heck, my grandma and I had gone through this book, and I circled all the good endings. I wish I would get rid of them, but I would get rid of the bad endings, but it would destroy the other story. So I just circled the good endings in this book. And there are like 4 or 5 good endings, despite of all the other bad endings, which was pretty creepy. Now, there was another show that was similar to Goosebumps, and it was called Are You Afraid of the Dark? And they made this story called The Tale of the Ghastly Grinner. A story about a comic book collector. He had a favorite comic book about an evil villain who pretty much represents the Joker, but his ability, he has this ability to make people go completely insane, going all and blue ooze starts pouring out of their mouths while they're going completely mad. And this is the Ghastly Grinner. And in the story, the kid has to find the author who wrote the comic book and get him out of the comic book world before the Ghastly Grinner kills him. And at the end, the kid becomes the best-selling comic book artist that now he became famous. But R.L. Stine also did one, I don't know if it's based from a book, but it was one of his episodes called The Haunting Hour. A story about the story was called Brush with Madness. It's kind of dark, if you ask me. And this one, it's about this kid. You probably recognize him in the Goosebumps movies. And for those of you who are wondering, do I have Goosebumps 2? Not yet. But if I have it, I will review it. Right now, I just have the first movie. But here's the same kid from the movie. In the Brush with Madness, he plays a kid who is obsessed with this one comic book artist. He makes these really dark and serious comic books. And he was so obsessed of the artist that he stole the artist's paintbrush. And all of a sudden, he starts drawing pictures all over his wall, showing exactly what it's going to predict. And then at the end of the comic, spoiler, at the end of the episode, the kid and his girlfriend get strapped in by this mysterious killer. And as it turns out, it was all the comic book artist's design. It was all in the comic book. You see, it turns out when he sees people who are obsessed fans, he does comic books about going to their death. Which, if you gotta tell me, that is sick, man. That is really sick. But there is also another comic book theme that R.L. Stine did do, and it was in the latest series he made, Goosebumps in Horrorland, where he created. This story is called Dr. Maniac versus Robbie. How do you pronounce that name? Schwartz. Robbie Schwartz. And it's a story about this kid who reads this comic book, and all of a sudden he appears in a computer game. Heck, they even made a sequel. They made a sequel where now he's officially a comic book character from Goosebumps Most Wanted. Dr. Maniac will see you now. But a lot of people kept telling me that there's another one. It's pretty much closer to it's more of a comic book theme more than anything you can imagine. And that is Goosebumps Horrorland, The Wizard of Ooze. Wizard of Ooze. Kind of reminds me of Wizard of Oz, but with ooze. And they say it's definitely comic book based more than Dr. Maniac. And these are the only comic book theme stories. And I think the artist and writer should make a comic book adaptation from all of them, along with Attack of the Mutant. So somebody should make it right now! I'm sick and tired of rating. But anyway, my thoughts about the superhero horror themed superhero movies. I mean, there is one that's pretty much a start. My favorite film director and designer, James Gunn, who made my favorite, Guardians of the Galaxy. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. Come on, James Gunn, I'm still waiting for Volume 3. But please, for the love of God, let the Silver Surfer show up for once. But anyway, now James Gunn, he didn't create this, but he produced it because his younger brother and his cousin wrote this story. And for those of you who are wondering what it is, it's about what if Superman landed on Earth, but he's not here, but he doesn't go through the same thing like Superman did. I mean, he grew up by a caring, educated family, farmer family. But this one, he starts to discover that he is here for one purpose and one purpose only: rule the world with his Superman powers. And of course, in this movie, he's 12 years old, and he starts killing people with his powers. And even they did a bit of a thumbnail where Michael Rooker, instead of showing up saying, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!" he shows up as a U2 conspiratorist, where he starts talking about not just there's a evil Superman-like, there's an evil Wonder Woman saying that she's a witch who's strangling people with ropes and cords, and there is this evil version of Aquaman who's been killing people out at sea. And this one's supposed to be like a drawing of some alien, so it must be an evil version of the Martian Manhunter. And as you can see here, this is a picture of a certain movie I didn't care of, but I didn't know it was created by James Gunn. And the movie that it was showing the picture of is, of course, Crimson Bolt from the movie Super. This is the only movie I really don't like, because I saw the movie and I'm like, what the heck is this? I mean, no offense to James Gunn, and for those of you who likes this movie, but Kick-Ass is way better than this. Way, way better. And for those of you who are wondering, am I going to be reviewing Kick-Ass soon? All in good times, my friends. All in good times. Super sucks. Kick-Ass was better. But as that hint at the end credits of Brightburn, it's like they're trying to create a movie version of the Crime Syndicate. And for those of you who don't know what a Crime Syndicate is, the Crime Syndicate are a group of evil Justice League. They're from an alternate universe where being bad is good and being good is bad. And on this universe, you have a group of evil, superpowered villains who are the evil version of the Justice League. I mean, our world have Superman, they have Ultraman, Superwoman, Owlman, Power Ring, Johnny Quick, and Grid. I don't know who that character is, but I should look him up. So, interesting to think about. And yes, I know some of you are going to be telling me, have I ever seen the show called The Boys? I haven't seen it because I don't have Amazon Prime, but I know it's based on a comic book. As you can see here, there's the comic book adaptation and the movie adaptation. And it's supposed to be about a group of people where there are these Justice League-like members who calls themselves the Sevens, except they're not the same typical group of superheroes like you think. They're evil, and the government is trying to make them look good, even though they're spreading fear and terror throughout the world, including this evil version of Superman, Homelander. So, the boys are trying to expose them and show the world that they're evil. Now, if you ask me, I think that movie Brightburn is the stepping stone. But if you ask me, somebody should do a horror movie where it's very similar to The Masked Mutant. The Masked Mutant is my favorite story of all time. For those of you who have a local library or a bookstore, ask them for the Attack of the Mutant. Read it yourself, folks. It is a really great story, and I love it. But I'm just waiting for those Goosebump people to have him appear. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be doing Goosebumps Part 3, but I'm hoping they should have the Masked Mutant appear in it. Just please give the Masked Mutant some credit. Or do a sequel of the book, Return to the Mutant. I mean, I know Zach Baby TV did a pretty good adaptation. I mean, Zach Baby TV, you did a pretty good job. I was really impressed on that audio story you did. As for me, time for me to wear something a little bit more comfortable. I need to get out of Goosebumps and into something a little bit more of me. I need to turn into my favorite superhero. I am Batman! This feels more comfortable. Although, my mask. Something's wrong with my mask. Looks a little bulky. I think I'm gonna change it to something else. Very smooth. A lot better than my last mask. I like it. Anyway, for those of you who likes the second part of this review, please leave a comment down below, hit like, and subscribe for more reviews. As for me, my people need me, because I'm Batman! See you later. Well, since this Bat fan is out of the way, there's something else I want to say. I heard that the MCU is planning to do a series of the Marvel's What If. I have a really great idea. Maybe they should do Marvel's What If Captain America was Nick Fury. Hear me out. In my original comics, I was a World War vet, right? Well, how about, and Captain America is a World War vet too, right? Well, hear me out. Starts out as Captain America, goes through the serum where he become a super soldier, goes through World War II, except change his origin, where after the war, he gets hit in the eye, wears a patch, and after the war have ended, they gave him a serum where they kind of slowed down his aging process, makes him age very, very slow. And instead of no longer being Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, they decided to let him be the director of a top secret organization known as S.H.I.E.L.D., and he changed his name to Nick Fury. Well, Captain, what do you think about that? I mean, what do you think? I think that's a good idea. You really think so? Yeah. I mean, they already did the movie of me, and I think it's time that I should be the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. anyway. So let's make it happen. Yeah, let's.